Hey guys, welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, it's been a long journey here to today, May 20th, 2026, and the book launch for these two books. Love Me Unconditionally, a spiritual guide to self-love and inner peace, and Love Me Unconditionally, a companion workbook. A self-love, rather, companion workbook. I even forgot my own title. I'm so excited. Long time coming, long writing process. So I'm celebrating the launch day today. Now, whether you are watching this live or whether you're watching this on replay, I'm really super happy that you are here and checking this out. My labor of love, my absolute labor of love. This is insane that it is actually here, that this moment has arrived. Now, I'm going to adjust my chair for a moment because I'm on a kneeling chair. I've got my, look at this. Look at this, guys. I've got my Grogu tumbler with my Tocino dandelion caramel nut tea. So excited for The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in 2 days. Yes, 2 days. I can't even believe it. I'm going to take a sip of my tea here. That is so hot, but I really needed to rehydrate. I just finished my run. It is still morning here. It's 11:02 a.m. Pacific. So let's talk about, well, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about the books. We are going to talk about where you can get the books. I'm going to be reading a little bit of the preface, and I am going to tell you why May 20th is an interesting day to release these books on self-love. Believe me, there is a story. So stay tuned for that story. And why I picked this day, I kind of picked this day and checked in with my angelic guidance about a year ago. And I realized that this day was that day. So I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, let me present both books. So this is the main book. And the reason there's a bar going across it is because this is a proof copy. It is not the actual copy, it is a proof. And Amazon just started doing this to their proofs a couple of years ago. So this is a proof copy of this book. Now, this is the main book. This is, I'll show it like this. That's the spine. That is the back cover. And the camera's going to try to frame and focus on my face. So yeah, you can see that it's a little bit out of focus unless I put it in front of my face. So this book is 292 pages. 292. This is by far one of the longest books I've written. I really think that Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now is actually a little bit longer. So you can see that the table of contents here outlines all the chapters. And again, sorry for the non-focused of the camera. Outlines all the chapter. This is just the beginning part. But it really takes you through into how to reconnect with your authentic self in moving into all of the aspects of self-love. Now, in fact, I start the book with the 14 traits of unconditional self-love at the beginning of the book. And this kind of reinforces throughout the book these 14 traits to unconditional self-love. So that is what is happening in this book. Is the rest of the book is following these 14 traits of unconditional self-love. Now, the interesting piece in this is that for the pre-orders, I made this poster, And the reason why the poster is not even fitting in the screen is because it's a long poster. This is the 14 traits of unconditional self-love that are in the main book. And if I back up, you can see it. But it's a laminated poster and it's a great, so it's very shiny. I mean, it's semi-gloss, but it feels nice. You can put it up on your wall if you order this through my website. If you order the books through my website, you can also just order the poster on my website. But this is a good reminder, a daily reminder of the 14 traits of unconditional self-love, because we forget. We forget to love ourselves on a daily basis. We're very mean to ourselves. We're harsh. We're critical with ourselves. So this is a reminder of how to love yourself more. Now let's go to the companion workbook. The companion workbook is actually meant to be worked through with the main book. So there are references to the main book through the workbook. I'm just going to randomly open to a page in the workbook. So one of the big chapters in the main book is healing your wounded inner child. And in the fall, I'm actually doing live workshops to healing your wounded inner child. And so there's an entire chapter in the main book on how to heal your wounded inner child. It's actually a lengthy chapter, but the support material in the workbook takes you through prompts in getting you to help you heal. Help you heal your wounded inner child. Now, in the workbook, there are reminders, remember, there are many, many quotes from the main book to keep you on track, to keep you, so like this. There you go. And this says, I'm going to read it to you. Being your authentic self means you don't have to change who you are to be loved. And so these are just constant reminders of how to love yourself unconditionally. It's to get you to consistently refocus on self-love, refocus on the depth of loving yourself unconditionally. So this is the companion workbook, and it is 140 pages. So if you are joining me live, please put something in the chat box and say where you're watching this from. And if you're already familiar with my books, if you're already familiar with my videos and my work, put that in the chat box too. I'd like to hear from you. And that's why I do this live. That's why I'm doing a live stream rather than a video, right? Okay, so that's the workbook with the book. Now, let me explain to you how to purchase the books and how to get them and start working through your own self-love journey, which I believe now. I wasn't a believer till about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit earlier. I'd say around 2022. I wasn't a firm believer that self-love was the pathway to go on your spiritual journey, on your twin flame journey, on your awakening journey, wherever you happen to be. I was not sold on that fact. I wasn't sold till about 2022. And I was a people pleaser, very codependent on so many levels. I've been healing that for several years, but I was still pretty darn codependent. So when I started writing this book in 2024, I had been on my self-love journey for several years, but really more focused on it since 2022. That's when I was like, I think this is the pathway to eternal happiness. It's loving yourself unconditionally. There's no other pathway that's going to lead you to that. It's just that. And I explain the reasons why in the book. So that is really the most important thing. Okay, so let me explain to you how to get the books. So you can go on Amazon. This book is currently live in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It will be in Audible or on Audible. I don't know, in a day or two. It's been pending in review since May 8th, and maybe they're waiting for the book to be live before they approve the Audible version. but it should be there in a couple of days. So that's for Audible, but right now it's available in paperback and Kindle. And I would say while the Audible version is probably fantastic for you to listen to while you're doing other things, you're going to want the paperback book because it's a lot of self work. And it's hard to do self work when you're not actually working through yourself. If you're doing the dishes or doing the laundry or driving a car or distracted in other ways, it's going to be really hard for you to really have that focus. But the audio might be a great companion to the actual book. Okay, for the workbook, this exists only in paperback. It does not exist in Kindle because it is almost pointless to have a workbook on Kindle. So this is something you're going to want to write in. You're going to want to scribble in it. You're going to want to jot down your deepest, darkest secrets, your deepest, darkest fears, and get to know yourself on a very, very intimate level. So that's why this is in paperback, also on Amazon. So Amazon is one way in which you can order Love Me Unconditionally, the book and the workbook. And hey, if you're here, put something in the chat. Say where you are from. Another way you can get both of these books plus the poster as a reminder to put on your bathroom mirror or in your bedroom mirror or on your wall or in front of your bed or where you do your makeup or where you brush your hair is on my website. And so go to lovemeunconditionally.com and you will go directly to the page where you can order these books from me. Now, the author signed copies will be going out May 31st. And the only reason for that is because this book, the companion workbook, I just ordered author copies. I was having trouble uploading. Hey there from India. How are you? The only reason is that I just ordered the author copies. Now, if you're from India, I'm really sad because I don't know why, but Amazon India does not do the paperback. They do Kindle version, but maybe it's just another system. So you can't get the paperback in India. You might be able to order it from England or something, but you can only get the Kindle copy of this book. Since this book is not on Kindle, not really sure how you can procure that at this point. I'm currently working with a foreign rights agent who is working on getting me foreign rights contracts for the book, which means that they would be published in other countries and in other languages. And my foreign rights agent is super excited about it and really thinks that this is going to do very well abroad as well. So yeah, I'm not really sure, but you can get it. Hey, Swati, you can get this book on Kindle. And I might be putting it on Ingram Spark. And if it's on Ingram Spark, I think you can order it from any country. So yeah, I know Amazon for some reason, and I don't know why. I'm going to find out that answer. I'm not really sure why they don't do the paperback copies of any of my books in India. They do the Kindle version, but not the paperbacks. So yeah, this book, so proud of it. So if you live in the United States or even if you live abroad, you can get author signed copies and you can pre-order them until May 31st. And the author signed copies will go out on May 31st. And so what I'm offering is if you get this book plus this book, the workbook, and you will get the poster for free. And you can also pre-order the poster or just order the poster and I'll send it to you alone as a standalone. So yeah. Okay, Swati. Yeah, I'm glad you're looking forward to it. Yeah, you could get it on Kindle today, actually. I have a client who lives in Singapore and she pre-ordered her Kindle copy of my book and she got it today. So, and there's a day difference in Singapore too. So, I think she had pre-ordered it and she said for her, she couldn't get it till the 21st because of course the book was being released today, which in the United States, it's the 20th. So yeah. So if you're watching this now, say hi in the chat box. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of my Tessino tea. Okay, so now I'm going to read a little bit from the main book, Love Me Unconditionally, A Spiritual Guide to Self-Love and Inner Peace. And this is the preface to the book. Okay, so my story is very much integrated in this book into how I learned about self love, how I understood it as a concept, how I became immersed with how loving myself unconditionally would solve every single problem in my life. And it has. And it has. That's what I'm so excited about is that people don't talk about this. They do not talk, they talk about self-care, right? They talk about like, oh, get your hair done, get your nails done, treat yourself, buy yourself nice things, but they don't talk about the depth of unconditional self-love, the real deep stuff. And when you get that deep, your life will start to go the way you want it to go. So, this is the preface. For most of my life, I had never given much thought to the concept of self love. I was pretty sure I loved myself. Since age 12, I focused on exercise and healthy eating. I got good grades in school and tried to excel at everything I did. Throughout my life, I've been relatively self confident. I even stopped drinking alcohol after college and never got into drugs. On the surface, one might have deduced that I was a healthy individual with a good sense of self love and self worth. But a few years ago, I realized I had never considered what it truly meant to have unconditional self love. When I was growing up in the 1970s and 80s, self love was not a spoken idea. In fact, the opposite was true. It was impolite to talk about yourself or to put yourself first. Being raised in a Catholic household, I was taught to think about others' well being instead of my own. If you were giving, you were considered to be a good person. If you thought of yourself in any way, you were considered selfish. On top of those educational values, that's my Mickey watch, sorry about that. On top of those educational values, I grew up in a dysfunctional home with a mother who didn't know how to adequately care for herself. Growing up, she sacrificed her childhood to care for her mother and siblings. So by the time she had me, she was a subservient wife with little energy to care for her newborn daughter. And when I was 5, my parents divorced. My mom became the breadwinner and caregiver of 2 small children. My theory that it was my theory is that it wasn't only the stresses from the divorce that turned the tables on the mother-daughter role. It was undiagnosed mental disorders that kept my mother self-medicated and angry. As a result, I learned to overachieve. I was my mother's emotional caretaker and housekeeper. To get any attention, I learned to excel in school and set over the top goals, but it never seemed to be enough. From an early age, I learned to suppress my feelings and desires, and as a result, I got sick a lot. Perhaps it was my cry for mother love. I would catch every cold, flu, or virus, and she would take care of me when I was sick. Looking back, I thought it might have been the only way to receive positive attention from my mother, but perhaps getting sick may have also been a result of repressed emotions. Since most girls and women around me behaved similarly, I never thought what I experienced was abnormal. We were raised to care for others, have children, serve our husbands, and maybe squeeze in a job or career. We were never taught that our desires or emotions were essential. Instead, we were taught that others come first. That was normal. The truth is, when you're surrounded by people who behave in a certain way, you adopt those beliefs even if the effects are negative. For example, most of my friends got married in their early 20s. At that time, it was customary to speak about training your husband into being a good man, or that being in a sexless marriage was an eventuality. Being happy and satisfied in a lifelong marriage was completely out of the question. In other words, coping with a situation rather than enjoying life to the fullest was typical. My first wake up call came when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer at age 28. I hadn't even noticed something was wrong, but I knew I was unhappy with my marriage. While self love wasn't remotely at the forefront of my internal dialogue, I began deep internal work as to why I might have manifested that illness. While the internal work gave me some answers that ultimately led to my divorce several years later, it wasn't until I was in a relationship with an alcoholic that my mindset began to change. Through therapy and 12-step groups, I started to learn skills to help me love myself more. I learned about boundary setting and my role in the alcoholic and codependent dynamic. However, I never learned that these skills were about self love. Then, in 2018, I had a major epiphany when I met my twin flame. Through that awakening, I realized I had never truly loved myself. Until that point, until that point, my view of self-love had been based on surface level things like exercise, eating well, or achieving goals. Well, those are important parts of self-love. I was missing the deeper emotional and spiritual dimensions of full unconditional self-love. When I faced a lifetime of self-neglect, the evidence was devastating. I hadn't realized how cruel I had been to myself. Not only had I ignored my feelings, but I had also attracted a constant stream of romantic partners who were mentally ill and emotionally unavailable. I felt guilt, shame, and self blame. All right, so that concludes reading the first few pages of this book. If you are intrigued and curious, make sure to pick up a copy of this book. Now, I made a promise at the beginning of this live stream, and that promise was I would tell you the correlation of the day, May 20th. And the reason this book release on May 20th is so significant for me personally. So 31 years ago, on May 20th was the day of my wedding. Now I'm divorced. I'm divorced. I just want to preface that. But I got married to a man that I wasn't in love with. And I thought I was doing the right thing because we had a child together. And so I got married for reasons that totally denied my own self love. I got married on May 20th of 1995 for all of the reasons that everyone else wanted. But it wasn't what I wanted. And the reason May 20th is so significant for me now, in having released this book on self love and this workbook on self love, and following the 14 traits of unconditional self love, the reason it's so essential for me and a turning point in my entire mission is because 31 years later, I now know that you don't get married for the wrong reasons, or you don't enter relationships for the wrong reasons. That if you don't love yourself, if you don't love yourself unconditionally, that none of your relationships are going to work. Not a single one is going to work. Because the most important relationship that you must solidify first is your relationship with yourself. Through the program of Love Me Unconditionally, the book, the workbook, the upcoming online course called Self-Love Mastery, and the live events that are coming up in the second half of this year, they're all designed to get you to solidify that relationship with yourself and to make that relationship the most important relationship in your life and the relationship that you spend the most time and effort on. Okay, because if you spend the most time and effort on your relationship with yourself, getting to love yourself unconditionally everything else falls into place. Everything else falls into place. Things go wrong when people don't love themselves. That's when things go wrong. That's when your relationships go wrong. That's when work goes wrong. That's when everything goes wrong. So, this is so important for me to teach to you for the next 30, 40 years, however long I have on this earth. I don't know. Maybe I have 50 years. That would be kind of far reaching, but maybe I do. For the next several decades at least, I will be teaching people around the world how to love themselves unconditionally. And I'm so proud of this work. I'm proud of this book. I know it will make a difference. And I hope you read and take this to heart. And please do leave reviews once you've read the book. Share with your friends. Another thing I want to say, that if you lead groups of teens that are in crisis, of women that are in crisis, of adults that are in crisis, start this program with them. And I assure you, by the end of the program, they will no longer be in crisis, no longer have threats of suicide or depression or anxiety or psychosis. This will cure them because it's a reconnection with who they truly are. And it teaches you exactly how to do this. So I want to thank you so much for joining me here on this live stream. Thank you for joining me on the self-love journey, because this is my mission. This is my purpose. This is the way I'm leading forward for you on YouTube, on my website, in my events, in my online courses. Thanks so much. And I will see you guys real soon. Bye.